Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video we're going to talk getting started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to take a look at the Sylvaneth and in particular the Ironbark sub-faction. In this video we'll go through a talk about what exactly an Ironbark sub-faction does for the Sylvaneth. We'll then take a look at some units we can start our Ironbark army with before further exploring some other unit options to expand upon after those initial purchases. Finally, we'll finish off the video with a little sample army list for you to use as some inspiration for creating your own Ironbark sample list, or indeed copy ours if that's what you wish to do. And so, what is special about an Ironbark Sylvaneth army? It's a Sylvaneth sub-faction in all the traditional sense. It gets a cool little rule. It doesn't, however, unlock any particular troop types for the army. The cool thing this army gets is it gets its own brand new command ability. This is called Stand Firm. You can use this command ability at the start of the enemy combat phase. The unit receives this command must be a friendly Ironbark unit that is within 3 inch of an enemy unit that made a charge move in the same turn. You get to pick one enemy unit within 3 inch of your Ironbark unit that has been charged and roll a dice. On a 2+, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. You can use this command more than once in the same phase, but if you do so, you cannot select the same enemy unit to be the target of more than one of these abilities in the same phase. So you're effectively doing mortal wounds when your opponent charging you. So this, to me, straight up just leads, it's wanting you to play on a defensive back foot army, and in 3.0 that definitely suits an army that wants to play more with the Expert Conquerors battalion than, say, the Bounty Hunters battalion. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. So let's move along. And so we're going to start by looking at the Lady of Vines. I think she's a great piece to have for your Ironbark army. Now, her big thing that she's going to be able to do, and I think that she brings, is the ability to cast her aspect of the Everqueen spell. On a 7, casting range of 12, and everyone wholly within range of that gets a 5-up ward. This, for me, is just a really great base and center of power for the army. Now, she's also got the Rouse to Wrath ability, where she can summon Dryads to the table, and we'll talk about Dryads in just a second. But she's also got her Withering Vines to put -1 to hit if an enemy's within 3 inch of her, which is really nice. And she also counts as an Awakened Wildwood for your army as well, on top of being a 2-cast and Unbind Wizard. Now, speaking of Dryads, they can go alongside her really, really nicely. And she not only can summon them, but Dryads are going to be Galatian veterans regardless of your army, which is pretty cool, but they are in 10s, so you've got to be careful where and when you are using her ability to summon them, as this can come back to bite you in the bum if you use it carelessly. But Dryads do have a cool ability where you subtract 1 from hit and wound rolls for attacks that target this unit while they're wholly within 9 inch of an overgrown terrain feature or friendly Awakened Wildwood, of which the Lady of Vines counts as. So there's some pretty cool combination between these two, and I think, just the amount of debuffs you can get in and the amount of ward save buffs you can get, I think this is really worth a good look at if you're playing an Ironbark army for a nice defensive Sylvaneth force. Moving on to look at other units, and I really don't think there's much of a place to go looking outside of Kernel Hunters. These are going to tie in really well with your other units for me. Kernel Hunters, first of all, they've got 5 wounds and a 3-up save, so pretty chunkily survivable straight off the bat. But they've also got the Envoys of the Everqueen ability, which ties in with Dryads so nicely. While this unit is contesting an objective, friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 inch of that objective are treated as being wholly within 6 inch of an overgrown terrain feature. This is just a massive buff for your Dryads, allow you to be in more places across the table and get all those nice debuffing abilities of -1 to hit and wound against them. Now, on top of this, you've got Trample Underfoot, where you can do some mortal wounds at the end of the combat phase, and now you've got the different options of Kernel Hunters as well available too. The Great Bows are nice for a backfield unit, 2 shots, 4s and 3s, Ren 1 damage 2 with those bows. But I think it's the Great Swords and the Scythes where they really come into it. Great Swords have 4 attacks, 3 3s, Ren 1 damage 2, but do 2 mortal wounds on the hit, and any attack sequence ends after that. You've also got the Scythes, which are a personal favourite of mine. 3 attacks only, 3s and 3s, Ren 3 in this current meta where there's lots of heavy armour. At the moment, we'll see what the change up is, because swords are slightly better against a horde, but Scythes are better against the more heavily armoured troops. Damage 2 is nice as well. You've also got the ability of Tanglethorn Thicket with the size where you can choose to do some mortal wounds after an enemy unit piles into you. So some cool abilities to play around with all your different versions of Kernel Hunters. I think they're all worth a look in for your army. And then the last units I want to talk about are Gossamed Archers, but it should be said these same rules can certainly apply that I'm talking here to Tree Revenants as well. Both these units are highly mobile, and this is something you're going to need in a bunker style army like this with loads of slow moving troops that really want to be focusing on certain parts of the battlefield. Gossamed Archers for me just hit out over Tree Revenants and the fact they don't have to actually go into combat. They have 2 shots at 3s and 3s, no range damage 1. However, if they ever roll a 6 to hit, they will instead do D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence will end. Their Zephyr Strikes allow them to, after this unit has released the Unleash Hell Command ability and all the shooting attacks have been resolved, it can, and this unit is within 3 inches of enemy units, you roll a dice and on 2+, you can retreat. Also, if this unit has 2 or more models, you've got 2-inch coherency to make them much easier to play with on the tabletop. 12-inch flying move is really good. So it's really the option between that more restrictive 12-inch flying move, which is still really good, or taking something like Tree Revenants, where you just get free teleports each and every turn. So both of these units definitely bring value. The other downside probably of Tree Revenants for me is the fact they are going to be Galatian veterans, so they'll be a really easy pickup for some battle tactic points for your opponent during the game. And so here we have our sample armor list for the Ironbark Sylvaneth. Now we've gone for Seasonal War, the versioning. Now this gives you a 6-up ward for your whole army, and you might ask, why do we want the 6-up ward when the Lady of Vines can already prefer and get us a 5-up ward around her? Well, 2 key things here. First of all, that's only around the Lady of Vines, so obviously having a 6-up ward army-wide means we can be a little bit more expressive with how we place our units across the table. On top of that as well, I think if the Lady of Vines is ever picked off, that means we lose the 5-up ward, so we would go from 5 to nothing. If we didn't have the versioning, I think going from 5 to 6 is much better than going from 5 to nothing, as none of the other ones really give too much to us. Now, we have got Indomitable for a immune to battle shock ability for our Triumph. We are only 5 points under, so it's unlikely we're probably going to get it. But if we ever do, I think that's the most important one. We're not really going to make a lot of use out of +1 to wound or rerollable charges with this army. And our grand strategy has been Show of Dominance. Now, at the moment, this is easily the best grand strategy around there. You just need a unit in the middle of the table that's in all 4 quarters, and you get it. It may change over time, but that's currently how it works. We then got the Lady of Vines. She's going to be our general. So this means no command trait, no artifacts. We have a named hero, but we do have the spell Virtuous Harmony, which allows us to return 1 model to a friendly Sylvaneth unit, or D3 if that unit is Tree Revenants or Dryads. Speaking of Dryads, we have 2 units of 20 Dryads. These are both in an Expert Conquerors battalion, so they're Galatian veterans, and also they're counting as 3 models each on objective, so that is 120 scoring power of Dryads across your table. We then have 5 Gossamed Archers. At this point, you really can't fit in those Kernel Hunters. You probably could try and swing around. I think the change, if you want to get some Kernel Hunters with bows potentially in the army, but then they'd be performing a backfield role rather than moving up and providing for the army, would be trying to drop this maybe down your Glade Worm here, which is a healing endless spell to the Spike Swarm Hive, and you can probably get that extra 10 points to get you some Archer Kernoth. But I think they've got some archers with their mortal wounds give something you don't really have, which is a lot of mortal wound damage to the army, so that's why I've gone for them. And their 12-inch flying move is really nice, giving you a nice mobile unit. That's not restricted to obviously having to do it through trees. Another Glade Worm, as I said, is a healing. It can actually either damage your opponent or heal you, which is really nice. 995 points out of 1,000, both our reinforcement points used. No allies, 60 wounds is pretty solid, and remember the Lady of Vines can summon extra Dryads to the table, so that can potentially even be more, plus all the healing available to us, and 4 drops. A really fun, different looking Sylvaneth army. It's probably more a Sylvaneth army if you're very much a old school Sylvaneth player with just Dryads on the table. If you've got ideas for a Dryad list out using Ironbark, let us know down in the comments below. And so that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop us a comment down below letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by joining our Patreon or YouTube members, or grabbing some channel merch off our merch store on Teespring, which is on our YouTube store as well. You can also come chat with me and other members of our little community here and our Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description, along with the Patreon and YouTube members links. And as a special shout out to all those Patreons and YouTube members, we'd like to give them all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Derek, and Giapi390. And a special thank you to our YouTube members: Greenroost Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Locke Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Sean Scott, Pink Nico Fire, and Robin Mankiller as well. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to everyone who comes on the channel and helps us create everything we do. Thank you all for watching once again, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.